Hi, I'm Rasheed Ogunlaru and welcome to the Gift of Inner Success Invitations. And remember, life is constantly giving us these invitations, and today's invitation is perhaps the greatest. Going within. It's chapter 5. And what I'm going to do is share this invitation with you. And I want to invite you to really sit with it, to be with it, because that's what this invitation is all about, going within. The funny thing about going within is, so often we're wanting to travel out that way. But if we're not going within, we will be going without. So it's quite ironic, isn't it, that traveling that way, but if we're not going here, we will be going without. So going within is key. And sometimes in this world in which we look around, which is far more focused on external success than internal success, there's the myth that, of course, everything externally is where everything is at. But when you find yourself on this self, personal, career, professional, inner fulfillment, development, call it what you like, journey, self-realization, self-discovery journey, we find that it calls us within. It calls us within. So there's this call from within. So I'm going to share this with you and invite you to sit with it, and then perhaps we can just explore where this journey within takes us. And of course, each and every one of us, this inner journey will express itself so differently. You may have been going on this journey for some years, and it might be that you're wanting to reconnect deeply with it. Or for you, it might be that everywhere you've looked externally makes no sense to you. It's suddenly been thrown out of kilter because life has come along. Challenges have come along. Work issues, relationship issues, personal issues, well-being issues. You're at a key stage of life. You're stepping into life, into your career for the first time. The years are advancing. Perhaps you've realized that you've never looked within. It's very often the case that it's the one place that we've never looked. If everywhere externally you've not found what you're looking for, then the invitation is always to look within. So we are right now going within. We spent a lot of time beginning to explore what we all know, all the ideas you have, and how from when you were very young, you didn't know, you didn't have any of these ideas. And for this, you've had these feelings for such a long time. We've begun to explore the experience of space, this stillness that we tend to have at our core. You may have gone and found this silence, this stillness refreshing. So even the moments, if you think about it, when I've invited you to pause, to be still, to breathe in and breathe out, this is part of this invitation within. So we've begun to explore and experience the space, the stillness that we tend to have at our core. You may have found the stillness and the silence refreshing. This is why very often we're drawn to go to a walk in a park or to go into some other very, very, very natural environment, the ocean, the forest. And automatically you feel reconnected. You're breathing in. You're in balance. Just notice that now. Going deeper and deeper within. So there's two ways to discover it. Sometimes it will be reconnecting with the natural world. Because we're tired, we're exhausted, we need to go within. Or rather, we need to go without in order to go within. But the without we're talking about is the natural world. Nature. The ocean, the forest, suddenly the air, the oxygen, we're breathing it, we're at one with this thing of life. We're not cocooned away from it. But other times, it is really going within. Not being lost in our thoughts, really going within. So this is very often why you're drawn for a walk in the park or any kind of natural environment, and authentically, automatically you feel reconnected. You're breathing in You're in balance. Remember, think about it. Last time you were in the forest, the woods, by the ocean. You know that feeling, and you get out of the car or you get out of the train and you find yourself breathing in. Because remember, inspiration means breath. We're breathing in, we're breathing life in. We're suddenly breathing it in. We're at one with it. We're not disconnected with it because we're breathing it in. We're feeling it. We're experiencing it. We're filling up with it. And I invite you to do that. As I read this, breathe in. Hold it. Experience it. And then breathe out. Just let it all out. Breathe in. Feel it. Experience it. Hold it. Because you're holding on to so much stuff. And then breathe it all out. Breathe in deeply. Hold it. Hold it. And I want you to let everything out. Maybe you're even breathing your story out. The story that we discovered in the previous invitation. Notice how quiet it is. Even if there's noises going outside, even if there are people walking around in your house or in your office or on the train when you're listening to this, notice how there's this quality of inner silence. Notice how there are fewer thoughts raging, racing around your mind, roving around your mind. And this invitation is available to you all the time. But instead you've picked up the invitation of the to-do list. Not the to-be, the to-do. Much to do about nothing. So you're breathing in, you're in balance. You feel at one with yourself or nature. So here you are with yourself. Maybe you've even experienced, maybe you've experienced it, maybe you're experiencing it now. You're drawn to more and more of these talks. You're finding these meditations online. You're going to these particular bookshops and finding things that will help you to connect yourself. Be it that they're spiritual texts, spiritual talks, existential talks, whatever they might well be. Nature rhythms of nature, sounds of the sea, sounds of dolphins of the rainforest, whatever it is, I've done them all. But don't be lost in the labels of them. This denomination, that denomination, this division, this thing, that thing, that thing. All we know is that we're connecting to self. Let's not get too caught up in the language. Remember, we've already discovered that we know nothing. What we want to do here is experience everything. We want to go in, we want to see what we discover when we go within. Because when you've gone without, you've gone without. So let's see what we discover when we journey within. You're breathing, you're in balance, you feel at one with yourself and nature. Your cares, your desires, your fears are left behind. Think about what happens if you have an argument or if you receive some bad news with work or with family. You probably take yourself off to your room or you go for a walk or something similar. You're doing this because you're going inwards, into yourself. So even when you think you do an external pursuit, like going for a walk, you're actually going back within yourself. You are naturally recentering yourself, reconnecting to yourself. Not yourself, to yourself. And this is, of course, what we do every night when we go to sleep. We go back within ourselves. Every night when we go to sleep, we go back within ourselves. Not ourselves who experience it every day, and this, I'm doing this is my life story. No, you're in a completely different world. Reconnecting to yourself, recharging, revitalizing. The scientists, the experts on this, on the biology, on the biomechanics, will tell you that the body is recharging, it's resting, it's rejuvenating, and so on. You're certainly not in the world that you think you know everything about. This is a completely different place. You're naturally recentering yourself, reconnecting to yourself. It's the same when you go to the sea. You go to the sea, you're first of all looking around, you're thinking, oh, what a beautiful day, the mind is thinking, and then after a while you find yourself looking out to sea. And you're lost in the horizon. You're hypnotized. You and the sea become one, not physically, but emotionally, spiritually. You're in a dance. You're entranced, you're in this dance. The thought dissipates. You flicker back into what you call consciousness, and you remember these things you've got to do, and you realize how much you've been enjoying being at one with everything. You're reconnected to yourself. And this, of course, is what we do every night when we go back to sleep. We go back within ourselves. Here is when we are asleep, especially outside of the dreaming stages. We have no awareness of ourselves. We are at one. So if you pause to consider this, outside of the dreaming stage, there's just this nothingness where you still exist. There's no thought. There's no story of who you are. You can't grab it. You can't control it. We're at one. So we've begun to explore this space, this stillness. And you may remember that I touched on one or two things that we tend to want to be and achieve at our heart, that we're really looking for. So in other words, as we become stiller, as we become silent, as we go within, whether it's a walk in nature, a walk in the park, by the sea, or just through this stillness, through this contemplation, quiet prayer, meditation, call it what you like, we're quieter. As we know ourselves emerge from the quiet, we realize that there are just this handful of things that we want. Or in fact, maybe that's what's called us back to ourselves, because things are so complicated, we want simplicity. One of those things that we touched on is peace. One of those things we pointed to, everything in fact that we pointed to in the previous invitations, is peace. We say that we want peace. We want peace of mind, we want peace in our homes, we want peace in the world. We want to learn how to achieve this. The other thing we want is happiness. We want to be happy. We want to be happy in ourselves. We want to be happy in our relationships. We want to be happy with the work that we do. This is the case for me. You want to be happy in yourself. You want to be happy in your relationships. You want to be happy in your job, in your career, in your business, and with your family. You want to be happy. You want your children to be happy. You want your parents or whoever you have in your life to be happy, content, joyful, fulfilled, whatever word you choose. So how can we arrive at this happiness? It's an interesting question, particularly when we live in a world that is far more obsessed with success than it is with happiness. This again points us to the gift of inner success, because the gift of inner success is that happiness. So what is at the root of happiness? And how can we go back to that root? And how can we then be able to achieve meaningful success in all we do? How is it that we can achieve that? How does that sit with you? How does that resonate with you? I don't want to know what you think about it. I want to know how you feel about it. What did you experience? You probably experienced a deeper sensibility. Not this very fleeting, got to do this, got to do that. no, 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 no. This deep thing, you may have even experienced it. You may have been completely at peace, completely unconcerned with what you had to do previously. This is the invitation. This is the invitation of life. It's actually also the invitation in every difficult moment. In the disputes, in the disappointments, in the disheartened moments, in your despair, in the moments of day-to-day depression, when discussions turn into battles, when all your dreams and goals you're unable to reach. You must bear in mind that all these dreams and goals are things that you assume that when you get to this or that this or that's going to bring you this or that fulfillment. Remember, we know nothing of that. What we're doing right now is just to go within, to see what we discover when we go within. And it's this peace of mind, peace within, this peace within this mind-body. There's less distress, less tension, the tension that you've been carrying around with you, the weight in the mind. We suddenly find that we're more light, we're more translucent. We're less concerned with how we perceive ourselves, our gender, our class, our race, our ethnicity, our colour, our childhoods, our day-to-day concerns, our must-be's, our must-haves, our gadgets, our phones, our tablets, our worries, our woes, our ambitions, our goals, our thoughts, our ideas, hour after hour. So I invite you to go within. Thank you.